What's going on, guys? I'm Tech Sergeant Weaver with the 360th Recruiting Group, and I am here to tell you guys about the Air Force. I got some questions here. We'll be answering these. I'm not going to read while I drive. That's frowned upon. Oh, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead. No, we're putting today, are we? Putting. Trying to get home, man! My original plan was to make a YouTube video, or a few of them rather, about basic training. But I can't do that anymore because basic training has changed so much since I went through back in 2011. So my recommendation for that would be to go ahead and look at some YouTube videos. I'll have to pin some in the comments, I believe. Go watch some YouTube videos on basic training right now and what it is. You shouldn't see a video past like 1 year or 3 years. I wouldn't trust that source for basic training videos. So they're always doing new videos, trying to get people to join the Air Force and give you an idea of what basic training is going to be like. So check those out. That being said, first question on the list is, how long is basic training? Go figure, right? Basic training now is 7.5 weeks. It was 8.5 when I went through, so congratulations, you get a week of your time back. A week of my life I'm never going to get back. Things you're going to encounter in basic training, some fun stuff. You're going to be M4 qual. You're going to qualify on the M4, so that's cool. If you've never shot a gun before, then there you go. If you have shot a gun before, then you'll know what to expect. The M4, it's shooting 5.56. It's not a very big caliber. You'll be all right. Some other things you're going to learn is TCCC, which stands for Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Yeah, I got that right. With that, with TCCC, you're going to learn how to deal with gunshot wounds, fractures, how to make splint, how to use a tourniquet, how not let your friend die, stuff like that. So that's cool to learn and to know. You'll get rehacked on that every 3 years in the Air Force. You have to go back through tactical combat casualty care every 3 years. So yeah, you're gonna be pretty proficient at it. All right. What else? The obstacle course. The obstacle course is pretty fun, actually. I had a great time. So I went through down in San Antonio, Texas, back in 2011, and it was from June until August. And let me tell you, it was hot! It was hot, man. Man, that is no joke. I don't think I've ever been that far south my entire life up until that point, especially in the summertime, and man, was it steamy. So the obstacle course was pretty fun. There's like a couple like water hazards you gotta jump over. Thought many a time to just cannonball in those things, but I didn't, because I also didn't want to walk around in wet boots the rest of the day. So, what else? Other things you'll learn about in basic training, it's a lot of, this is what I didn't expect, it's a lot of classroom pieces. There's classroom portions that are a couple hours a day, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to sit around and watch PowerPoints all day and get an instruction like that. You're going to get a lot of sleep deprivation in basic training, which really stinks, but you know what? You just got to suck it up. But that classroom presentations are going to be really hard to sit through, but make sure you don't fall asleep, because that's a great way to push the Earth out of orbit, aka doing a crap ton of push-ups and sit-ups, all right? You don't want to do that. So just keep your nose clean. Stay awake when you're supposed to stay awake, sleep when you're supposed to sleep. There's a bunch of different activities you're going to end up doing in basic training. There's different jobs you have in basic training, and I mean jobs in a very, very loose sense of the term. Jobs is in like, how do I get my flight, my group of people that I'm with, through to the other side of basic training. That being said, there's cleaning that you have to do every single day. There is laundry that needs to be done. There's road guards that need to be posted to make sure that your flight can walk across roads, march across roads, and nobody gets struck by a vehicle, safety. And so my job in basic training was laundry crew. Now, I hear there's different types of dorms in basic training now. There's, people call it Disneyland and Alcatraz, whatever, I guess. But I was in a very old dormitory, which would be your Alcatraz, I guess. And the laundry rooms were not connected to the actual dormitory. They were downstairs near a drill pad, or where you would rally up after getting chow or whatever, and that's where we would load up all of our laundry, take it down there, and then do the laundry, and we would have to stay there with the laundry until it was done. Bingo! That's the job you want when your drill instructor walks in and everything is going sideways very rapidly, and then you can realize, you know what? I got laundry to do. There's laundry that needs to be done. I have to take care of this laundry. I'm going to go ahead and scoot out and knock this out. So, I was laundry crew. I highly recommend laundry crew. It was great. I actually had a buddy left. I was in high school with him. I graduated high school 4 days after I graduated. I left for the Air Force. So, there was a buddy of mine, Tom, who left a week before we graduated high school, and he, believe it or not, was in the same squadron I was, and he was laundry crew. Go figure, right? I actually saw him, I think it was like the beginning of the second week of basic training. I actually saw Tom in the laundry room. Blew my mind. Obviously, you're not familiar with faces down there, and then you run into one of your best buddies from high school, and he's doing the same job you are. So, kind of cheated a little bit, but we made a schedule to meet in the laundry room 3 different times. Hopefully we met a couple of those times to meet in the laundry room if our flights weren't doing anything. Yeah, so I knew I had a little bit of an asset who was ahead of me in basic training, who gave me the day by day of what was going to go down the very next week. And I had this intel, and I would take it back to my dorm. I took this information back to my dorm, and it cost, I charged people for this intel. There is CQ, which is charge of quarters, and that happens every single night. Somebody has to be manning the hallway. It's 2 people. They man the hallway, make sure that, there's no threats that are entering the dorm while people are sleeping, that sort of thing. I made a deal with the CQ guy who was running the schedule for CQ, and I said, if you want to know what's going on every single week to the T, you're not going to make me do CQ at night. And he said, yeah, deal. So, you know what? Boom. No CQ for this guy until the very last week, and then he screwed me over, and I was doing CQ multiple times a night. So, you know what? Yeah. Thought he was my friend. Turns out he was not. So, that being said, that's basic training. There's probably going to be more questions, but feel free to shoot your comments, your questions in the comments below. I will respond to those. I'll do my best to respond to those, and I will rally back in different videos, and we can keep talking about that and discussing the any sort of questions you guys have, whether it's basic training or Air Force stuff, whatever. I don't care. I'm here to answer your questions to make you as confident and as comfortable relieving for basic training or joining the Air Force, period, as I possibly can. Second question. What are my career options in the Air Force? That's a wonderful question. I'm glad you asked. Career paths in the Air Force. So, there's a bunch of different series of AFSC in the Air Force. That being said, if you see a 1A, that's aircrew. If you see I think 1N is Intel. If you see a 1N series, that's Intel. Whatever. We're going to go over every single one of these AFSCs in a different playlist, so look forward for those. Those are going to be fun. We'll definitely be doing that. And I'll break down every single job out there. That's my goal. Break down every single job and give you as many details as I possibly can. Hopefully bases of where they go, if they're very strict on bases. So like I joined as a 1 Alpha 4. That's not a thing anymore because they merged career fields. But I joined as a 1 Alpha 4, and I can only go to a handful of bases. So I'll let you know what those bases are so you can prepare yourself. And if it's bases you maybe don't want to go to, maybe you pick a different job in the Air Force. Or maybe you're like, cool, I love those bases. I totally want to join this career field. So maybe you think about it like that, because ultimately you have to live there. So there's different types of jobs in the Air Force, right? So different career paths that you can pick. I joined as air crew. That was something I enjoyed. I genuinely wanted to do. So I enjoy flying. I enjoy the air crew culture and that sort of thing. Well, that's a completely separate video I'll get into. So air crew, maintenance, ops. I would classify ops as in like air traffic control, flight line, Air Force safety. Let's see here. Air crew flight equipment, due to like pack parachutes and get air crew like squared away with life-saving equipment that is definitely needed in case of emergency or anything like that. Those guys, but yeah, that's ops. So anybody who kind of does any sort of operational side of the Air Force. Support, I would classify those guys as SARM, which is the Squadron Air Aviation Records Management people. The HARM, which is the headquarters, maybe? Air Crew Resource Aviation Management, whatever they're called. I have to dig into that a little bit deeper. But those guys, the support, some more support. You could classify AFE as support, the Air Crew Flight Equipment. You could classify those guys as support if you really wanted to, but I kind of roped them into ops. Other support functions are trainers. So CBurn training, the TCCC that I mentioned before, those guys are trainers. Those guys support you going out there and doing the mission. So supporting ops. Admin side of the house, pretty self-explanatory, but administrative. So you have your paralegal, your personnel. There's actually an AFSC out there called admin, so they work pretty much hand in hand with personnel, do pretty much doing the same job. People will argue in the comments and say that it's different jobs, but pretty much the same job. So anybody admin, sitting at a desk, and you have a goal of, you know, whatever paperwork needs to get done, you're knocking it out. What else? Intel, I'm going to classify those guys as ops because you cannot fly in a combat environment without intel. That makes for a very surprising and poor day, usually. I think that pretty much does it for that question, but if you are looking to do something on the outside and you're using the Air Force as a springboard, by all means go for it. And you're like, hey, I don't have any schooling done, but I want to eventually do this job on the outside. Let's say I want to be a registered nurse or something like that. Hey, I'm going to go into the Air Force. I'm going to get my schooling paid for. I'm going to get credit towards the Community College of the Air Force. I'm going to knock that out as well, my CCAF. And then I'm also going to get all this job experience. Yeah, you got a good plan right there. Join this medical, boop, and then you got your qualifications or whatever you need to get out and be an RN and walk right into the door at any medical facility out there. It's only going to help you out. Plus you get actual real-world experience, not like, hey, I did this online training, this is experience. No, it's not. You can actually get that experience in the Air Force because you're going to be training all the time and dealing with patients all the time. How often will I be deployed? Well, that is quite the question. So, how often will a member be deployed? It really all depends on the squadron you're in and the mission that they support. So, for example, I can only really use myself for this example, but, so in the AWACS community, which is a plane I flew, our deployment rotations, we had 5 squadrons who could deploy, and these squadrons left for 4 months out of a year, and we just rotated squadrons. So you would deploy once every year and a quarter. Kind of weird, so, but it actually worked out pretty nice, because you weren't going to deploy on Christmas every single year. So that was nice. It would always change. So you're only gone for 4 months, yeah, that's great, but you were only also deploying once every year and a quarter. So you were going to be there, and it was pretty easy for you to schedule out your life a little bit in advance. And you pretty much knew where you were going as well. However, other career fields, not so much. Some career fields like security forces, I'm going to use those guys as an example because they're a pretty easy target. Security forces could get a random tasking of like, hey, I need 3 troops, 3 airmen from your squadron, and I need them to go to Afghanistan. Not so much anymore, but I need them to go to the United Arab Emirates. So I need them to go to Al Dhafar Air Base, and I need them to leave at this time. They're going to deploy for 6 months, and then they'll be back at this time. You're going to go and do your mission, and go do whatever you need to do. That being said, when you get back, there's a thing called dwell time. So dwell time is awesome. Dwell time is a counter that is on your is on a virtual military personnel flight computer system, and you can go access your dwell time at any time. I'm pretty sure mine is like way over 1,000 days at this point. But dwell time is essentially saying I can't deploy until my dwell time is 180 days. So I can't. My dwell time has to be 180, and then I can deploy again. Now, you can bust your dwell time. You need a waiver to do that, though. If you willingly want to bust your dwell time, it's really not a problem. If you don't want to bust your dwell time and you're being tasked to go deploy some other place, your unit has to file a waiver to bust your dwell time. Pretty sure that's correct. Fact check me if you think I'm wrong, and put in the comments, and I got no problem admitting when I'm wrong. So throw it in there. But yeah, it's usually situational dependent. We've seen dudes or dudettes hit for deployment that have just gotten back for deployment when you have somebody healthy right down the hallway who hasn't deployed in years, and for whatever reason, they're getting pinged to deploy. It's up to them whether or not they want to take that if they're within their dwell window. It's up to them whether they want to cancel it out or say like, hey, I don't want to go, or say, yeah, I totally want to go, I'm cool with busting my dwell. How often am I allowed to take leave? Anytime. So, 30 days a year, that's all yours, okay? You are given 30 days every single year to take leave. You're allowed to keep 60 days in your bank. There's a LeaveWeb bank. LeaveWeb is a system that we use to take leave, and you just go in there and file your leave for whatever day you want, whatever days you want, whatever week you want, and you can go ahead and file that in there, and 30 days a year, that's yours. You can take that whenever you want. Now, your commander, in theory, can deny you that leave and say, no, I need you here, you can't take leave during this time, but I haven't seen that in my career yet. I have yet to see that. I have yet to see a commander tell somebody they can't take leave. I have seen a commander before say, hey, there's like something going on mission related. It would really be nice if you didn't take leave at this time. It's up to you though. If you want to still take leave, you're by all means willing to go do that. It's your right to go do that, but I'd prefer if it was all hands on deck type situation and you didn't take leave. And then the member just does whatever they want. So if they want to take leave still, cool, they're taking leave. If they want to stay and help out the team, then they're going to stay and help out the team. But what I did is my first year, I think I only took leave over Christmas to go see my family. But what I did was I think I took an entire year and I didn't take any leave, and I just ended up stacking 60 days pretty much. I pretty much stacked 60 days of leave and kept it in my bank, and I've pretty much had 60 days of leave in my bank ever since my first year in the Air Force, and I haven't really taken I take 30 days of leave a year, that's that, and I don't really touch it. I mean, I usually scatter those 30 days, so I'm not just taking them all at once, because that's kind of frowned upon as well, is to just take these all these leave days all at once, and you take a month. Rare circumstances I've seen that, but usually people just take a week of leave here and there. But yeah, it's paid vacation. Go wherever the heck you want. Recently see a guy, he went down to Argentina. He took, over Christmas, he went down to Argentina, and I think he took around like 25 days or something like that. He just had to meet with our Office of Special Investigations, do a little brief of threats that he could see down in Argentina, and sign him off, and he's good to go. And he went down to Argentina over Christmas and had a great time, I think. It's snowing. It's snowing now. It was raining when I left. It's snowing now. Cool. What are my housing options like in the Air Force? Well, that's a good question, because it's going to be dependent on your situation. Let's see. We'll start off with airmen. If you're a single airman and you live and you're joining the Air Force with no dependents at all, dependents meaning children or a spouse or whatever, you're going to be in the dorms. So this was my circumstance. I was not married when I joined the Air Force. So what had happened to me was I got to my first duty station. I lived in the dorms for 3 years, and then I ended up getting out and going and living in a house because I got married at that point. But I was in the dorms for quite some time. I'm pretty sure it maxes out at 3 years, but I've seen guys leave the dorms early. If like the dorms get stacked and flooded with a bunch of new airmen, they're going to kick you out early. The reason behind that is because they want you to be financially stable before they kick you out, and you can manage your money a little bit, solid paycheck, and then you can get out and kind of throw your basic housing allowance at, an apartment or whatever, which we'll get into that here in a sec. The dorms are really nice. I was in a dorm room with just myself. I shared a kitchen with a guy, and I shared a bathroom with a guy, but I had a walk-in closet to myself. I had a bed to myself, a little living room area with a desk and everything like that. It was sweet. I really couldn't hate it. Chow Hall was right down the road too, so I could go get food pretty much anytime it was open or available. Me being a flyer, that was a little bit hard though, because I would leave for work at times. Our show times were like 2:30 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 whatever was showtime. I had to show up to the squadron, so the Chow Hall is not open at those times, so I had to kind of meal prep the night before and take whatever I needed to in a lunchbox and throw it in my bag. But when I landed, usually around like 4 o'clock in the evening, then I could just go get chow if I really wanted to. But I normally just made stuff myself. I didn't really go to Chow Hall too much. But Chow Hall is free. I had to pay for that stuff out of my own pocket. But let's say you're joining the Air Force and you're married, you're going to get basic housing allowance. Basic housing allowance is for wherever you're going to go, or wherever your permanent duty station is. You can go on, just Google BAH calculator, and you can see you plug in what rank you are and the zip code of your duty station, and then you can see what your rate is going to be for basic housing allowance. And you're going to get that every single month, and that is for you to throw at your apartment or a house or whatever you're going to get. Throw that at that, and that should cover the mortgage or the rent and any utilities that you owe. That's supposed to be what that's supposed to cover, okay? And it's going to be dependent on how many dependents or not, if you have a dependent or not. Sorry, I confused myself. So your basic housing allowance, basic housing allowance is going to be dependent on if you have a dependent or not. If you have more than one dependent, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a dependent, you still get paid the same as if you had 6 dependents. And then you're going to get paid accordingly, whether you have a dependent or you don't have a dependent. So basic housing allowance, like I said, is for you to use and throw towards any sort of housing that you see fit. I have lived on bases before and base housing, and that is pretty awesome. The housing that I live on now, which I'm actually turn on base right now. The house I live on now is super nice. Actually, this is going to be a random circumstance. Probably won't happen to you. I just got lucky. But it's 06 housing, and I am clearly not an 06. I am an E6. So it's 05, 06 housing, and they just happen to farm it out to NCOs, and I just got lucky. So take that for what you will. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Pretty good. How's it going? So, housing is super cool. They will take all of your BAH, though. So don't plan on farming your BAH or thinking they're going to take a portion of it. No, they're taking the whole thing. However, electricity, free. You can use as much as you want. If you go over a certain wattage on some bases, they usually charge you for that, but it's really hard to break that wattage. Just don't leave all the lights in your house on all the time, and don't run an electric heater, and you'll be good to go. Water, all paid for. Trash, all paid for. So you don't have to worry about any utilities or anything like that, or busing housing or anything like that. So, but the only downside is they take all of your BAH. So that's all I really got to say about housing. So things we covered was basic training. Now that's a series within itself. Different types of jobs in the Air Force. So if you're looking to go a certain route and you want a certain job, hey, I really want to be a cop, cool. Security forces, up your alley. Definitely go for it, and then get your degree, criminal justice degree. So go for it. But if you're unsure of what you want to go in as and do in the Air Force, you can go open general and get an open general job, and the Air Force is going to throw you in whatever job that they see fit for you to be open general in. Or you can watch some of my other YouTube videos, which I will throw out there as soon as I possibly can, of different AFSCs, and we're going to break them down. I might do every single AFSC. I might end up just doing the series of AFSCs, like 1 Alphas or 1 Novembers or 1 Charlies. I might end up breaking it down that way. Maybe that's what we'll do up front, and then I'll break them down individually if people have questions about certain AFSCs. We covered that. We covered leave, and then we covered housing on bases. So I hope this was informative for you. If you have any questions on these specific topics, throw them in the comments, and I will get back to you in a different video or in that comment thread. If it's just an easy kill in that comment, then I'll just reply to your comment and answer your question. But if it's video worthy, then I will make a video about it. So pretty self-explanatory. But this channel is designed for you guys to ask me any questions you have about the Air Force.